Good afternoon, dear students. Welcome to Hydraulics and Hydraulic Machinery class. So, in today's class, let us discuss on the Unit 4, that is Hydraulic Turbines, Part 2, that we will start. So, in this Part 2, we divided into 7 lectures, wherein the first lecture is on Francis turbine and its components, and second lecture is the velocity triangles, work done and efficiency. Then third lecture is working proportions. Fourth lecture is problems. Fifth lecture is Kaplan turbine, work done efficiency. And sixth lecture is problems. Seventh lecture is draft tube. So these are the 7 lectures in part 2. So let us commence the first lecture of part 2 of unit 4, that is hydraulic turbines, wherein we discuss on the Francis turbine, its characteristics, and also its components. So in this lecture, we are discussing about the Francis turbine. Francis turbine, what are the various points? Number one is the characteristics. Number two is basically the components. Number three is velocity triangles, work done, efficiency. Number four is working proportions. Number five is problems. The moment I say working proportions, it leads to the design also. So these two, lecture 1, this is lecture 2. So this is lecture 3. This is lecture 4. This is how I take it up. So let us go into the first part. What are the characteristics? What are the characteristics? First thing is the Francis turbine is a reaction turbine. Francis turbine is a reaction turbine. What do you mean by that actually? In reaction turbine means pressure turbine. What do you mean by pressure turbine? There is pressure change when water flows from entry to the exit. This pressure change is called reaction. For example, at the entry to the turbine, if you take it, total energy will be pressure energy plus kinetic energy. If you want portion, majority is pressure energy, the 30% to 35% is kinetic energy. So that's why actually it is called as a pressure turbine. If you take it exit from the turbine, pressure is negative, less than atmospheric pressure. Here is pressure is high. Here is pressure is negative. See both the things. That is the importance. Next. Second characteristic is it is a inward radial, inward radial flow turbine. What do you mean by inward radial flow turbine? For example, if you take this is the shaft, over the shaft actually, right? This is how the runner is. So if I take it, the runner blades, this is how the runner blades, these are the runner blades. So now if you take it, water enters at the outer periphery and moves radially towards the center. Water enters at the outer periphery and moves towards center. In which direction? Water flows in the radial direction. Water flow in radial direction. That means what? It is perpendicular to a plane, to the axis of the turbine. If you take this as the axis of the turbine, in a plane perpendicular to the axis of the turbine, the flow takes place. So that's why it is called as inward, from outer periphery to inner periphery, and radial, it flows towards the center. That's why it is called as inward radial flow turbine. That is second characteristic. The third characteristic of Francis turbine is it is a medium head turbine. Medium head turbine. So that means it works under different, under working, it really works very well. It works very well under wide conditions of, under wide varying conditions of head. That is why it is more preferable. Fourth one is it is medium specific speed turbine. So these are the four characteristics. Now again, I will say the present one which we are studying, present study which we are making is flow is radial flow. That means actually it is an inward flow reaction turbine having radial discharge at outlet. This is what we are studying right now. This is the Francis turbine which we are studying. But remember that the modern Francis turbine, the flow entry is radial and exit is axial. It enters radially and leaves axially in the case of modern Francis turbine. So this completes to me the first topic of characteristics of Francis turbine. Let me go into the second topic, components of Francis turbine. The various components of Francis turbines are: number one, most important thing is casing. Number two is basically guide vane mechanism. The second one is what? Guide vane mechanism. The third one is runner. fourth one is basically draft tube. Out of this, actually, this is mandatory for reaction turbines. This is mandatory for any type of turbines, and this is actually again for reaction turbines. And this has a hydraulic function in reaction turbine. So I will explain each component one after the other. If I take casing, please remember that in case of Francis turbine, the casing is full of water always. First thing is that first the water from penstock enters the casing with high pressure. Please remember that this is airtight casing. This is first thing. Second thing, the cross-sectional area of casing gradually decreases. Gradually decreases. I will show the figure also. Because why it has to gradually decreases? Finally, when I say gradually decreases, it is of spiral shape. That's why whether you call it as casing or spiral casing. Reason for this is water will enter, water will enter at constant velocity, at constant velocity throughout the runner. This is the reason why we are having it as a recipe. How it looks like, I will show. For example, if you take it, this is what I mentioned. Always while drawing, please remember this is the shaft. Over the shaft, what will be there for us? Runner. Once runner is there, actually these are the runner blades. Right? This is the first thing. Over the runner, what will be there? This is basically surrounding the runner. This is called as guide mechanism. Understood? This is the guide mechanism. Over the guide mechanism, this casing will be there. This is the water from the penstock. Water from penstock. So now you see how the area of cross section is changing. So this is the casing. Water enters from the penstock into the casing. This is how it enters. What happens to the area of cross section of flow? It decreases. It slowly decreases. Why? Here, if you take it, the velocity with which the water enters here, 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 all will be maintained constant. The reason I am telling why we are decreasing is here when water enters, it's a pressure energy plus kinetic energy, right? With some velocity it enters. If I maintain the same thing, what will happen actually? The velocity goes on decreasing. So that is why we are reducing the flow section. Thereby, the moment area is reduced and the same discharge is flowing, velocity has to increase. So the velocity increases. So velocity, that's why if you see here to here slowly, at any point, the velocity remains constant. If you don't do like this, what will happen? Velocity goes on decreasing. That is why it is maintained that the cross section goes on, cross section is of spiral shape. This is very, very important. Gradually decreasing, gradually decreasing from entry from entry point. So these are the many things. And third point is it is airtight casing because the pressure change, airtight casing because pressure changes occur inside the casing. So that is why as the water enters with very high pressure, that is why it has to be airtight casing. So this is the first component. Let us go to the second component. The second component is the guide mechanism. Guide mechanism. What is this guide mechanism? It's again a stationary circular wheel, a stationary circular wheel, right? Circular wheel all round the runner, all round the runner. It's a wheel like thing actually. And what will be there on that actually? The stationary guide vanes. The stationary guide vanes are fixed on this circular wheel. The width between the vanes can be adjusted. And what is the function of this guide vane mechanism? It is only to control and direct the flow onto the runner, onto the runner blades without any shock or vibration. This is the purpose. Otherwise, from casing directly, if the water enters onto the runner, straight away the axis, the turbine itself gets a shaking, the vibrating, and there will be losses. So, what we are doing it is that shock losses we are absorbing by keeping this guide vane mechanism. The guide vanes slowly directs the water onto the runner actually. So that is how already I mentioned how they are. Once again, I draw the figure for your sake. So this is the shaft. On the shaft, actually, we have the runner, right? This is the runner. These are the runner blades. Once again, very quickly you can draw. On this, actually, a wheel is mounted. This is the circular wheel that is mounted, and this actually we have the guide blades here, right? These are the guide blades. So from casing, water enters into the guide blades, and these guide blades direct the water onto the runner. The width between the guide blades, this can be adjusted. That is what. So this is the guide vane mechanism. So this is the thing. So purpose also I mentioned. This is the second thing. So what is the third thing for us actually? The third part is the runner. Runner is what? Again, it is a circular wheel. It is a circular wheel, right? On which series of radial curved vanes are fixed. That is number two. The surface of the veins is smooth. This is number two. Why smooth actually? Otherwise, losses will be had. Right? The shape of the radial curved veins is such that the water enters at the outer periphery and leaves at the inner periphery without any shock. Right? This is the thing. And actually, the next one is the runner is made of, generally made of what? Cast iron or steel. This is the general. And the runner is firmly attached. The runner is firmly attached to the shaft. So this completes the third part. Again, I will show you for your thing. So the physical figure, I request you all to see. Already I have shared with you. So this is the basically shaft, over the shaft, and this is the thing. So these are the runner blades, right? So the lower one is the inner thing. This is the inner part, inner periphery. This is the outer periphery. Water enters at the outer periphery and leaves at the inner periphery. So this is what the thing is. The most important thing, the fourth one is the draft tube. Draft tube is nothing but a conical tube of increasing cross sectional area. Increasing cross sectional area. So in case of reaction turbines, the pressure at the exit is negative, that is less than atmospheric pressure. Atmospheric pressure. Outside the runner, the pressure is atmospheric pressure. So now you tell me whether water will flow from high pressure to low pressure or low pressure to high pressure. So water enters at the exit of the runner is negative, less than atmospheric pressure. Outside it is atmospheric pressure. How the flow will takes place? Then in order to make smooth passage of flow, draft tube is attached to the exit of the runner. How it looks like. Suppose if you take this is the turbine runner exit, right? The draft tube here it will be like this. One end is attached to the turbine runner, the other end is kept in tail race. This is water only. Here the pressure is what? Here if you take it, pressure is what? Negative. Outside is what? Atmosphere. Here what is the pressure? It is atmosphere. So this can be attained by this conical tube, and this conical tube we call it as a draft tube. So it is mandatory in the case of reaction turbines. Without that, we will not be able to discharge water in the case of reaction turbine exit. We will not be able to see that the water leaves the turbine properly. So a draft tube is very, very important component in the case of Francis turbine. So kindly remember it. Same is the case with the Kaplan turbine also. Note that actually. With this, we will stop this lecture, and next lecture we will take it up actually. The next one, the velocity triangles and work done in the next lecture. Thank you.
Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.